Hey guys, welcome back. Hope you all are doing well. This is Mohammad Badruddin back again with another lab from HTTP Request Smuggling vulnerability module. And today we are going to see HTTP version 2 with content length request smuggling. This lab is vulnerable to request smuggling because the front-end server downgrades HTTP version 2 request even if they have an ambiguous length. So to solve the lab, we need to perform a request smuggling attack that causes the victim's browser to load and execute a malicious JavaScript file from the exploit server, which call an alert document.cookie. The victim user accesses the home page every 10 seconds. This lab could be a bit tedious for you or maybe time consuming because of this one. So the first point is saying in the hint, saying solving this lab requires a technique that we cover in the earlier HTTP smuggling request smuggling material. The second point is most important. You need to poison the connection immediately before the victim's browser attempts to import a JavaScript resource. Otherwise, it will fetch your payload from the exploit server but not execute it. You may need to repeat the attack several times before you get the timing right. And this is the main thing. So have a good luck. And we already opened the lab here. This is our lab. And burp cert is already working. We have all the requests here. So you can see this is the web root request. And most importantly, because as the lab is saying that the victim user will fetch and execute the malicious JavaScript from the exploit server JavaScript file. So you can see here, this is the endpoint / resources that contains JavaScript, and it's loading multiple files like analytics, fetcher.js, labheader.js. So that kind of files it's taking from the resources endpoint. So we will see this later, but the most interesting thing we are gonna see today, we start from the web root request and we are going to send this request to the repeater. Actually, I want to send this request 2 times to the repeater, so that the first request I will take that request as the smuggled request and the second one will be acting as the normal request. Important thing, go to the inspector section and go to the request attribute. Make sure the HTTP version 2 is enabled because the front-end server basically using HTTP version 2, but it downgrades it, sending to the backend server. Okay, here I'm gonna enable HTTP version 2, and then important thing is update content length. Make sure it is turned off. Why? Because the front-end server is interpreting content length and we want to control the content length in this type of attack. Okay, change the request method to the post request, and I don't want all of these headers, so I'm just going to delete those. Content length is 0. I'm just gonna take a little bit time to just make sure whether the front-end server is interpreting content length or transfer encoding. Let's say you don't know about this, although the lab is clearly saying the front-end server is interpreting content length. So I'm gonna quickly add here transfer encoding, and the value is gonna be chunked. Then I'm gonna add here a chunk size which is 4 bytes, hexadecimal value. We represent chunk size in hexadecimal value, which is 4, and I'm gonna put here some data, and then I'm gonna add here an invalid chunk size because the chunk size is in hexadecimal and Z is invalid representation of hexadecimal. So if the front-end server is interpreting transfer encoding, it will see the first chunk size which is 4, then it will see the data within that chunk, then it will proceed and see the second chunk size because the chunk size is invalid hexadecimal representation, so we will see the response invalid request. Okay, otherwise if the front-end server is interpreting content length, then we get another responses. So just send the request and you can see 200 OK. 200 OK means the front-end server is not interpreting the transfer encoding, it's interpreting the content length. So if you want, you can just see the exactly content length, which is 10 bytes. So I'm gonna add here 10 bytes and send the request. 200 okay. If we add more bytes like 12, you can see it's still 200. If we add more bytes, because from here up to here, from here up to here it's 12 exactly. So if you want the request to read further, let's just add 2 more bytes and send the request. Now you probably see communication timeout error or read timeout error. I think communication timeout error we are gonna see. Yeah, so this is a very strong indication that the front-end server is using content length. Even if you take off the transfer encoding header from here and send the request, it will act similar to the previous one because the front-end server is not interpreting transfer encoding. Okay, come on. Okay, communication timeout. If we put here 10, it will read data up to here, I think. Send the request. So 200 okay. Even if you put up to 12, it will work perfectly fine. So what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna take out 4 from here and leave this ASDF, and from here I'm gonna start the new request, okay, which is gonna be the smuggled request. So if I say here the content length is gonna be 6, so I'm just going to update it to 6, and then from here I will start new request. So get slash, I'm gonna put here, so anything is an invalid endpoint, okay, HTTP / 1.1, and then ignore header, which is gonna be X. So that's it. I don't want anything here, anything here. Okay, so just send the request one time. Okay, 200 okay, and now send the normal request. So you can see 200 okay, send this 200 okay, send it one more time 200 okay. Why so? We need to check that out. Okay, I'm gonna take these out from here. By mistake we actually update here, so we don't want this, we want it in 1, HTTP version 1. So send this request and send the request here, and you can see 404 not found, because if you go to the proxy, see the webroot request / with HTTP version 1.1. okay, so now it's confirmed that the front-end server is working on HTTP version 2. Then once it send it to the backend server, it basically downgrade the HTTP version, and you can see this endpoint / anything we got here 404 not found. So that means the smuggled request is working fine and we achieve our goal. But the second condition here in the lab, which is saying that we need to perform a request smuggling attack, so the victim's browser load and execute the malicious JavaScript file. Okay, so back to the burp suite and go to the proxy. Here you can see this request, which has /resource endpoint, and within that we have JavaScript file. So I'm just going to send this request to the repeater and send the request 200 okay. Let's see, if I just take everything from here, send the request, you can see 302 found, and the location, you see it's trying to redirect us to this location, which is the host of the lab, which is genuine. So let's see, I just want to I just want to put here example.com and send the request. It's saying misdirected request, invalid host. So it's saying invalid host because Portswigger, Web Security Academy, these labs basically have firewall rules or web application firewall rules, so that your request will not be able to access any out of band host, okay, or it will not interact with any out of band host like example.com or something. So that's why we have here exploit server. And what if I take this exploit server and back to our add the exploit server as host, send the request, and you can see, and this time we are not getting basically invalid host, we are getting resource not found. Which resource not found? This / resources. So even if I try to put here, let's say / resources like this and send the request now, basically we need to store it and send the request, you can see we get hello world, which we have here. Okay, and one more question you may ask, why I put this /, because I show you why. If I back here, you can see I take out everything after the resources, even I take out the / here. Okay, but once I get the response 302, we get here the /. So that's why I put the / here. What if I put the / after this one, send the request, you will see 404 not found. Okay, so if we remove the / here, you can see we get 302, and this is what we need. Back to the smuggled request, we already checked that out, it's working fine. Now I'm going to copy this and paste it here. Oh, come on. Okay, and I don't need this one, we need actually content length and content type, so I'm gonna copy that, paste it here. Okay, and one more thing I need here, so instead of hello world, we actually want to serve this thing, document.cookie. Okay, and instead of application, let's just put here text. Okay, and store it. Now back here, send the request, 200. Okay, now send the normal request, 200. Okay. Okay, wait, of course something is missing here, which is, let's say data is equal to 1. Okay, and this most important thing is we need to update the content length, which is 6. So this content length is 6, but I want to add few more bytes here so that it will add it will try to read data even after that. Okay, now send the request and send the normal request from here, 200. Okay, why so? Okay, now we get it 400 bad request, but here the thing is missing host header. Of course we need to add here host header. So this is gonna be back here, go to the smuggled request and paste that. Fine, so that seems perfect. Now send the request and go to the normal request, send the request again, 302 found, perfectly fine. We need to keep sending the request until we get 200 in the normal request. Okay, this time we get here 200. Okay, and you can see the lab is solved because in the backend victim is trying to access. Okay, so if you go to access log, you will see here victim access the resource, but this time he accessed the resources from the exploit server instead of the genuine host. So that's it for this video. You need to keep going until you get 200 here. Okay, sometimes you will find here 200, but still the lab will not be solved. This is because you also trying to access and the victim is also trying to access. Okay, so if that condition comes to you, you need to do few things. Like if you spend a good amount of time on this lab trying to solve, everything is perfectly fine, but still you won't be able to solve the lab. You just need to send this request, this is smuggled request, to the intruder. Go to the intruder and go to the last of this data is equal to 1, and you need to add the payload here. Attack type is sniper is okay. Add the payload, and instead of simple list type payload, we need to add payload type null, because we actually do not want to send any payload. So null payload, and generate 500 request or 200 request, whatever you want. And go to the resource pool. Here in the resource pool, you can see the resource pool is default resource pool which sends 10 concurrent requests, but I don't want to send 10 concurrent requests because on each request I want a response. And yeah, so create a new resource pool and set the maximum concurrent request is 1. Okay, and it is gonna be the fixed one. The delay between the requests, let's just put 500 milliseconds, that will be enough. And go to the setting, make sure the update content length is turned off, otherwise it will automatically change the content length and it will take the complete content length up to here, so that you don't want. Fine, and start the attack. So once you start the attack, you will find here one request, you will find 200, another one 302, 200, 302, like this. Okay, so the moment you find 200 status code simultaneously, this is the moment where you need to go back to the browser and check out the lab is solved or not. Okay, because this is the moment where you will find that the victim also access the page with the resources of JavaScript, and it will load the JavaScript from the exploit server. Okay, so I hope that makes sense, and I hope you enjoy the lab. If you like the content, please like, subscribe and share. I'm gonna see you in the next video.